Welcome back, wonderfully imaginative people. I'm Dave Allen. This is my studio, and this is part 2 in the Making a Platter series. So today's segment is all about screen processing, and we're going to go from the images that we created in the computer last time, and that was pretty intense working in the computer. So today will be a little bit more hands-on, and we're going to talk about how we take those images that we generated last segment and put them on screens for this segment. So I'm going to briefly explain the whole process and then walk through it step by step because there's a lot of terminology and a lot of different tiny steps. So we're going to use a silk screen, and this is a blank silk screen, and then we're going to use a photo emulsion process to burn an image onto a screen. So this is an image burned onto a screen, and then eventually we're going to print ceramic materials through this image onto our slab that we made last segment. And the first couple of steps we're going to do today is coat our screens and generate our transparencies. And our transparencies are the things that block the UV light from setting up our screen, our photo emulsion. And where the UV is blocked becomes what we print through. So these are the items we're going to use next. I want to show them to you now because we're going to be in the dark room for the next couple of segments. So this is the photosensitive emulsion, and we're going to fill our scoop applicator with photosensitive emulsion and then coat our screen. Actually, we're going to coat 6 of these screens with the scoop applicator. So we're going to apply a thin skin of photosensitive emulsion with the scoop applicator to our silk screen. So here we are at my darkroom, and anytime we deal with the photosensitive emulsion, we have to work inside the darkroom, and we have to work under these lights that don't have any UV in them. And then next, we take the photosensitive emulsion and pour it carefully into the scoop applicator, and it looks like this. Satisfying goo, huh? Okay, and then at this point, you take the applicator full of emulsion, and then you carefully, but with a good amount of pressure, coat the screen, and you raise it with even and consistent pressure all the way up the screen. And it looks like that. And once we have all the screens coated, they go inside this extra dark box. And this dark box doesn't let any light in. And the screens have to dry in this dark box for about 24 hours. So in that time, we'll start generating our transparencies. So, oh boy, here we are again in the computer. But not for long today. We're just going to take the files that we generated in the last segment and then print them on this photo printer. And this photo printer has very special ink. And this ink is called blackout ink, which is UV blocking for screen printing. So it actually produces an ink on a transparency that blocks all of the UV from getting through. And bam! These are all of our transparencies, freshly printed right out of the printer. And this is the size that we're actually going to be printing. So we're going to transfer these transparencies onto our screens that we just coated. And you can see each one of these has a different label for a different color. So these are all in black and white right now, but when we start printing, we're going to put different colors through the screens. So before we jump into exposing screens, I just want to take a quick second and talk about all of these numbers on the screens. Because what that does is it provides a lot of information for me. That number refers to the intersection of thread per square inch. So if it's 156, that means there's 156 different intersections of threads per square inch. And what that does is tells me that with a bigger number, I have to push smaller materials through that screen because there's not much space between all those threads. And with a smaller number, I can push more materials or a wider variety of materials through that mesh because there are a lot less intersections of thread in that square inch. And here's where I prep my transparency before I'm ready to expose it in my darkroom. So I check it out here on a white background to make sure all of the details on the transparency look good before I expose it, because what the transparency looks like will be what the screen looks like when I start printing. So here we are once again in my darkroom, and we have the screen with a coat of emulsion on it and the transparency on a piece of glass sandwiched together, which holds it very tight to the screen. And now it's ready to expose. So I'm going to get my stopwatch out, hit start, and turn on our UV lights to expose the screen. So for my darkroom, it takes exactly 2 minutes and 20 seconds for the screen to expose properly. And it's very important that that time is exactly right because the emulsion sets up at a very, very, very specific amount of time under the UV exposure. And that's 2:20. So I'm going to turn my light off, and now we can kind of take it easy a little bit. The UV light is off, and now what we're going to do is remove the transparency and the glass and go wash the screen out. And what's going to happen is where the transparency was, it blocked the UV from setting. So hopefully that'll just wash right out. And here we are in my super glamorous washout room. So you have to keep flipping the screen and spraying it down. And when the UV was blocked, all of this will wash out. And it takes about 7 minutes, so stick with me. And here we have the screen washed out. You can see where the transparency was. It stopped the photosensitive emulsion from setting up. So that's where we have our image, and that's what we're going to be printing. So here they are. Here are all 6 of our different screens with all 6 of our different layers. And these are the exact screens that we're going to use to print on our slab that we made last week. And here's the magic of the process. So by generating a transparency and doing graphics in the computer, we are able to expose this screen, and this will be the same exact screen that we're able to push ceramic materials through when we print. So that's it for this segment. So we made transparencies, we took our transparencies, we exposed screens, we coated screens before we exposed them, and then next episode we'll be able to actually do some printing, which is way more fun. All of this is just in preparation to print on that original slab we rolled in the very first segment. So stick around, there'll be a lot more, and it gets more fun too.